Hello and welcome to Self Talk. I'm Rachel Astarte. Erin McCullough calls herself the Joy Slinger because she teaches people how to create impenetrable joy so that they can be calm, have peace of mind and meaning in their life now. Through an anxiety disorder that she had hold her up in her home, she developed strategies to overcoming and preventing it that she now teaches. Erin, welcome to Self Talk.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, great. So it's interesting from your bio, the idea of anxiety being a teacher. And I wonder if you might share with us how anxiety helped you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's certainly, I think you fill in the blank with that, right? It's not just anxiety. It can be anything. It could be depression. It could be stress, overwhelm, worry. And I believe that we're here to heal and grow from these opportunities. That's what they are. They're opportunities, they're gifts that are showing us where the healing needs to take place. And so, I mean, I sort of owe everything to that experience because it's the thing that catapulted me into the direction of being able to be of service to others and help them learn how to navigate, these, everything that comes up in life that's challenging.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what was that like for you, and how did it catapult you into the work that you do?
Well, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have used catapult because it took me a while to kind of,
or eased you in to the work that you're now doing.
Well, it's so funny because when you look back on your life, you can see all the things sometimes. I don't know if you've ever had those moments where you're just like, oh, I met that person and that thing happened. And then this, and then I went to school and then I had this other thing happen. And that's how life is. It's just that we're like in it. When we see it from the distance of, all the things that happen on the way to arriving at this moment,
right,
it all makes sense. But we're so caught up in all the things not working out how we think it's supposed to look that we get all confused that it's not in the right order or it's not happening how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And when we start to let go of those ideas that we know how things are supposed to be, or that there's some formula to this life other than watching it unfold, then we can actually enjoy it because we don't have an expectation of how people are supposed to show up and how things are supposed to look or what the outcomes are supposed to be. And that's that impenetrable joy that I'm talking about. That's the no longer being beholden to or at the mercy of people or circumstances to dictate whether or not you feel good or bad, or you're having a good life or a bad life, or a good day or a bad day, or you feel good about yourself or not.
Right, right. That's the whole Zen beginner's mind kind of thing, where you approach everything as though it were new and without those expectations. And that's a really, really important point. It's hard though to let go of those patterns of anxiety or worry. What are some ways that people can, well, I'm sure recognizing that you're doing it is the first step, but then what can some people do?
Awareness is absolutely the first step. And then of course there's a strategy like, recognizing, okay, emotional awareness. So there's the awareness piece, which usually is like crisis, like I just can't do this anymore. And then there's the emotional awareness piece, like when am I in reaction? What am I in reaction to? And when we understand those pieces and start to see that pattern a little bit better, we recognize, these things happen prior to me being in reaction. This is what's happening while I'm in reaction. And then we start to choose and catch it just a little bit sooner each time until we're going, okay, that thing is about to trigger this whole litany of things. And I don't like that. So I'm going to choose differently. But the process, again, is slow. It's just like, watching our life. We think that everything should happen right now. When we look back, it's actually is happening quickly. We just can't see it that way. And then once you get some strategy, it's like some compassion for yourself and others, right? So it's like, oh, I don't have to be hard on myself because, the needle was moving a little bit. And this last time I missed it altogether. I missed the mark 100%, and it's okay, and being okay with that, just the recognition, that just the fact that you can see it and go, I did that thing again. There it was. It just happened all over again. And then you just keep catching it, and you do the whole thing in wonder and curiosity without judgment, and just going, okay, I see what this pattern is of behavior. I recognize when it's happening. I'm going to choose differently every time I'm able to. And that's just fine. And it's that practice that's the hardest piece. It's not the strategy. It's, the awareness piece for some can be very challenging, just because a lot of people just weren't taught to be emotionally aware. And so just recognizing, I'm having an emotion. What could that emotion possibly be?
Right.
Can be challenging, but it's the practice. It's the over and over and over again. But we practice this other way of being for so long. It's like you can't go to the gym and lift one weight and be buff. It takes some time.
Right. And it hurts. Like your gym analogy is one that I use all the time, which is you go to the gym and you exercise, and it's the next day you're in pain, and so you think, I'm not going to do that again. Except what happens is, if you go back and you continue to work that muscle or that muscle set, it gets stronger. You work through the pain, and sometimes, you're right. It feels very awkward. I think the most important thing you said, which I really appreciate, is that this is a process. It's absolutely imperative, and that we have to be gentle with ourselves on that journey, because, there are enough people out there who are trying to hold you down and keep you small. Don't let yourself be one of them. It's really hard. So what does it mean to be a joy slinger? Sounds violent. I'm just like, what? She's slinging joy at me.
It's so funny too, because I didn't always think of myself that way. I knew that I had this experience with this book. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called A Course in Miracles, where after several, it was like a month or two, I started to just see the word joy everywhere, and I just was like, oh, joy is the answer, but I didn't know how to get there. And so there was a whole process of things that I went through to get to that point. And how do I accomplish that? Then I realized, actually not that long ago, a few months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, I was talking to somebody on a podcast, and I was like, she's like, so what is it you actually do? I said, what I actually do is I sling joy, versus like slinging burgers or,
I got it.
Like, that's my thing, as I'm teaching people how to locate joy inside of themselves and be able to cultivate it on the daily, so that they can have that as the predominant experience of their life.
Yeah. I was going to say, and maybe this sounds like a silly question, but at the same time, it should be asked, is it feasible for us to acquire predominant joy in our life? Is that a thing? Or, does it, I don't want people to think that means you have to be happy all the time. Right.
Yeah. Joy is, well, first of all, I like to say happiness and joy are two different things.
Right.
In my book, happiness is based on external things. It's fleeting. It's the new car, woohoo. Then it just is a car at some point. Right.
Right.
Joy is that's the internal journey. That's the looking inside and going, oh, I can change the landscape in here to what feels super good for me, and just keep cultivating that and cultivating it. And yes, I mean, joy predominantly is not only do I think it's possible, I think it's our birthright. I absolutely think that we are supposed to be in that experience. We've been chasing the happiness piece for a long time.
Right.
Money, car, house, relationship, whatever. And the journey inside is the one that creates all the good stuff. And then all that other stuff just comes with that.
Right.
And, creating it is less when you understand that, there's some default settings that we sort of have had from, past experiences, childhood, all that, you recognize that the story is still alive for a lot of people in their life and they're referring to it a lot. When you can understand that that story is not who you are, it's just something that happened. And that story is really for the benefit of you recognizing where healing and growth can take place for you, which I believe is why we're here.
Yeah.
On the earth at this moment, is to heal and grow as humans and get past, how you feel like it should have been or how it should have been different or whatever, and realize that that is for your benefit. And when you know all that's going on in the background, then you can just go, oh, okay, there it is again. There it is again.
Right.
There it is again. I'm going to use this other strategy. I'm going to think a little bit differently. I'm going to be intentional about my thoughts. I'm going to recognize that my thoughts and my emotions are not who I am, that these experiences are just experiences. They're not who I am. I'm the spectator of those things. And that's how you know they're not who you are, because you can have a thought, you can have an emotion, you can name those things. So who's naming that? That's actually who you are. And so when you understand that background noise, you understand that you aren't those things, then that roller coaster ride stops as much. It's not in reaction, in reaction, in reaction. It's, I can step back from all of this and go, what's actually happening here?
Right, right. And I don't know if you encounter this in your work. I do in my practice, where I hear, logically, I get it. Everything you're saying makes sense, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to listen to my intuition and find out, and trust it. How do we trust our inner voice if our inner voice in the past has steered us in the wrong direction? So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm still working with that myself. It's just all a process. It's just wonder and curiosity. It's just, oh, okay, interesting. I thought that was my gut speaking, but maybe that was my story. And so you just, you don't go willy-nilly and go, oh, okay, that's my gut, and I just have to, go for it. You test the waters out. You go, okay, I'm going to start with something small. I'm going to try and manifest something in my life that's a little bit, not as important as other things, or I'm going to make decisions both using intuition or my gut and some, information. You don't just, or I don't think that you just go for it right out of the gate, because like I said, there's some default settings that will have you believe a lot of things are the truth.
Right.
And until you can get a handle on that piece and then start to create the new story that you want to create, in the interim, there's some just testing the waters, like, oh, this feels like it might be a gut thing. It feels like, I should go in this direction. Let me just stick my tippy toe in there and see what that is about. And then keep assessing. And then the other piece is I don't know about you, but I know I work with a lot of people, and myself included, was like this. Every time we go to make a decision, somehow we feel like it's the biggest decision ever. And it's like, no, it's just a decision. And if you get new information, you make a new decision.
Right.
We don't have to get so stuck in, oh my God, we have to find every little piece of information about it. Do what you feel is right. Doesn't work out, make a new decision.
Yeah. And I think getting comfortable with our bodies and how our bodies process emotion is really important. When you are guided by your gut to say, literally, how does my body feel when I'm about to do this versus this? I talk a lot with patients about, does it open you? Do you feel like, yes, as opposed to, I don't know, I'm not sure if I should, that's a really good indicator of the next step to take. And I love what you said about everything feeling like a major decision. Technically, it might not be, but what's major is that you're stepping into your power, which is a big deal. And so even something as simple as, whether to, buy that car or whatever, sometimes for some people it's, where to go to dinner, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but what will happen to the other person if I choose the wrong place? It's a big deal. But I think it's really important to point that out, that it's not the thing itself, it's getting comfortable with trusting yourself and recognizing the power that you have.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think the question that you want to keep asking yourself is, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? Not, is this going to affect anybody else? Because I think we spend a lot of our time worried about what other people are thinking or doing things because we don't want to disrupt other people. And when we can concentrate on ourselves and recognize that we're responsible for us and our feelings, and everybody else is responsible for them and their feelings, then we don't have to cross over and try to navigate what's going to work out for other people. We can just go, oh, they're upset by this, but that's their upset. I can do nothing to help them with that. Only thing I can do is help myself with my being upset that they're upset. So it shifts the whole sort of paradigm onto being responsible for your own emotions and recognizing that you're the only one that can make you feel better. And this idea that, I'm going to do this because I'm going to not make them feel bad is not real. That's an illusion, because only they can make themselves feel any which way, good, bad, right, wrong, whatever.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a hugely important point. And so many of us, because of childhood wounding or whatever it is, where we have to be the ones who keep everything nice and calm around us, which means we have to make sure that everyone else is taken care of before we take care of ourselves, the people pleasers, that kind of thing that a lot of us fall into, myself included. It is beginning to realize that you don't have to carry all that, and it's not your responsibility. I so appreciate you bringing that up, because that's a real obstacle for people on that path of growth. Is, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't, and those are, now we're getting into the area of boundaries, right? I don't, if I set a boundary, someone will feel shut out. Or if I do this thing or make this decision. And what you said is so right, which is each one of us is on our individual journey, and so if I say something to another person and that person is disappointed or angry, according to what we're agreeing on here, well, that's their stuff to deal with. But imagine, if they also believe that, if they also believe what we're saying, then they oh, why is that triggering me? Let me do that work over here and not put it on that person. Imagine if we all did that. Imagine what the world would be like if we took ownership for our emotions.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about this, I talk about projection all the time, because I think as humans, there's no other way for us to be, because we have a lens or a filter in which we see this world, and that's how we see everybody, but we don't take into account that everybody has that too. And so, where a lot of the dissonance happens is that I have this lens and filter, and this is what I see as my reality. And that's not the same for others, but somehow we think it is. And so I figure, if I do this, then it won't hurt their feelings. And then I'm sure you or other people that are listening have had that experience where you're like, oh, but I made this decision because I didn't want to hurt your feelings, and their feelings were still hurt because they're responsible for that, not you. And so recognizing those things just makes it, challenging at first, but it just feels more authentic to fully be responsible for, you and not everybody else.
Yeah. What guidance might you give for someone who's grappling with that? How do I manage it if I speak my truth and another person is upset by it? So we know logically, it's something they have to work on. How might you guide someone to sort of negotiate or navigate that situation? What happens internally? Like, I think I've upset them. I know it's really on them, but now what do I do?
So for me, the question that I'm often asking myself is, was my intention towards fear or love?
Beautiful.
And when I recognize that my intention is towards love, then I'm able to go, okay, not, I mean, I can still have compassion for the other person, of course, and recognize that it's okay for me to sit in my own, part of the process of healing is really just sitting and allowing yourself to be in emotion. I mean, we don't allow ourselves to do that. We're constantly avoiding
Mm-hmm.
from very young age. Little kid falls down, skins her knee, like, it's okay, honey, don't cry. So we're constantly like tamping down like every emotion all the way up until adulthood, and then we wonder why we can't communicate with one another and have deep, meaningful relationships, because we're stuffing all this stuff down.
Yeah.
I say, have all the emotions, even when they're inappropriate. You can apologize later. I'm not saying freak out and yell at people. I'm just saying, like, experience your life.
Right.
And that means things that don't feel so good, and they're not as bad as you make them out to be.
Right.
There are some awful traumas that have happened to everybody. Everybody has their challenges. And we think in our mind we've made them to be so much bigger than they actually are. And when we allow ourselves to sit in those moments and just go, oh, okay, this doesn't feel good, but it will pass.
Yeah.
And each time we do, then the needle is moving ever so slightly in the direction that we want to experience. But tamping down just creates all kinds of things, right? Miscommunications, and not the kind of relationships you want, and disease. And I mean, just the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't avoid, and we use all these things to avoid that we don't even talk about. We talk about the, obvious ones like drugs and alcohol and gambling and sex and, but there's like social media, and there's just this idea of being busy all the time. And, just all of this, or helicopter parenting, or, just all the things that we do to avoid. Just like, for me, the process I teach is, there's something there that doesn't feel good. I want you to sit in it. I want you to get so familiar with it that you can see it coming from a mile away. Mm-hmm. All the nuances, everything, cry, do whatever you need to do, and then move on. And each time you do that, less and less energy on it, less bad feelings.
Right. And that's the other part too, to normalize those feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, to say, we're human beings and we have the full range of emotions, ideally. So, and because they're transient, that, we're not going, wouldn't we all love to be stuck in an orgasmic state for 24/7, but it doesn't happen that way, right? That too passes. And so will anger and grief and sadness, the uncomfortable bits, that we experience, and to see them as, and now we're going to get back to the joy thing, because part of the joy of being human is to have the full range of emotions and welcome them, as though they're guests coming to your house for tea. And so, oh, well, there's sorrow. Come on in, have a cup, sit at the table.
No, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly right. We all think of joy as like jumping up and down and exuberance, but it has all these other nuances. It has stillness, peace of mind, calm, has wonder, curiosity, and even all those other things that you were mentioning, the things that don't feel good, what I call low level experiences, anything that doesn't feel good, all of those are part of that too. When we take the expectation we have off, when we allow ourselves to experience it, when we just let our life unfold without resistance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Letting your life unfold without resistance and without judgment, which I think is resistance, but yeah, that's a key one. I think that if anybody gets anything out of this podcast, the idea of not judging your feelings, not judging your emotions, and letting them just be, and so important, especially, you know, with what we've all been through over the last year or so. Uncertainty is a big uncomfy place for a lot of us to sit and nestle in. But
I always tell I tell my clients, it's like, we spend all this time trying to find this like safety or security. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And if this last year taught us anything, it was that.
Yes.
It does not exist.
Right.
There is no way to create that. That's not the creation that you want, even though that's what society would have you believe, get that stack of cash, have that retirement, do the, have the house,
security,
and the car and the
security.
things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't exist because, it could all disappear in just a heartbeat. And so then what are you left with? The same, right?
Yeah.
And so you can, people like, what is it like to be a millionaire? Close your eyes. It's the same. You're still there.
That's right. That's right.
You.
got a few more toys, but that's about it. Maybe better carpeting, but but that's it. That's such a really, really important point too. And also, the majesty of the universe is here. You have it. I'll tell you, some of the most unhappy people I know are the people who have the most money. And it's about keeping that going. And that's an addiction in itself. Addiction to work. I was thinking about that when you made the list. And I never even thought about the helicopter parenting being a way to control your environment, but absolutely that's what it is. And of course that has terrible ramifications on the next generation, those children who have to then deal with that. But these are also really important points. So how can listeners find you?
I think the best way to find me is on Instagram. My handle is Erin Mac, ErinMac LLC. And my website URL is on there. I post videos with some, strategies, things to think about.
Right.
And my stories are always, inspirational memes and those sorts of things. Because I believe that we're here to be in service of others. And so if there's anything I can do, so anytime I'm on a podcast, I offer a free call. It's not a sales call. It's just, what can I help you get on your path to joy, and teach you maybe a strategy while we're on the phone call, and send you on your way.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's such a lovely offering. And your website is erin-mac.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to have all of these in the show notes. Anyone, you don't have to be running for your pencils yet. I will put these in the show notes so people will have them. And Erin, just thank you so much for being on Self Talk today.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. These conversations are so important. We really are meant to be enjoying ourselves every day. Not just on vacation and the times that we're deemed, it's okay to, but literally every day, all day long.
No more sanctioned joy.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much.